We've got a Louisiana artist with a strong country music background and a story that's very unique. He's from Cotton Valley, Louisiana, and grew up in a musical family. His mom, Suzanne Cox of the Cox Family, is a Grammy-winning artist. So he was around high-level songwriting and musicianship from an early age. But instead of relying on that, he's worked to build his own lane and his own sound. After signing with Monument Records, he introduced himself nationally with Rules of Breaking Up, hit the road with artists like Keith Urban and Kelsey Ballerini, and steadily built a career that blends traditional country roots with a little soul and groove mixed in. His album Tale of Two Towns reflects that journey, growing up in a small town and figuring out life and an identity beyond it. In 2023, he made his Grand Ole Opry debut, a meaningful milestone for someone who grew up around that world but earned his own way onto the show. He's thoughtful, he's honest in writing, and he represents Louisiana very well. Let's welcome to the show tonight, Mr. Brandon Ratcliff.
Hey. Oh,
what's up, brother? How are you, man?
What's going on, man?
How are you?
Oh, man, I'm glad to be here. Just hanging out, just enjoying some peace and quiet up here, you know.
we were talking before the show, and you're saying that you don't get a whole lot of peace and quiet these days.
Man, I don't. I got a house full of children, and my mom is downstairs right now too. So we got a lot of noise. I grew up in a loud house, and then I guess I got that honest. My house is also really loud, so it's a blessing and a curse, you know.
I hear you, brother. Well, man, let's dive in, dude. We got some people on here ready to listen to you share a little bit of your story. So I don't want to keep them waiting. Before we get into music, though, tell me a little bit about your family, man. What it's like being a dad. You told me before we came on that you've got a 1-year-old birthday today.
That's right. Yeah, my second, my son is his first birthday today. Man, it's great. I mean, all the cliches are true about parenthood. You know, a lot of you parents out there know this. It just, yeah, it's all true, man. It's the greatest thing I've ever done. But it does come with the massive lifestyle change. And it really took me a good, 2 years to kind of get to the swing of things where I was like, okay, I think I figured this out a little bit, or at least not figured it out, but at least kind of gotten used to the chaos, you know. But it's beautiful, man. I love it. It has totally changed my perspective on life, both professionally and personally. Yeah, man, I'm enjoying it, taking it day by day, watching the new phases happen, you know, and letting it inform the rest of my life, you know.
Dude, I love it, man. Yeah, I don't know if you're ever gonna figure it out, but
yeah, that's right. Yeah, maybe by the time I'm where I think my mom and dad feel that way. You know, you get to once they're long gone, you start to really go, now I think I've got it figured out. You know, it's like, well, it's already too late now. You know, but,
yeah. No doubt about it, man. Well, man, you're from Cotton Valley, and I would ask you what it's like growing up in a small town, but your upbringing was a little bit different. From the day you were born and even before, from what I was reading, you were on stages and tour buses across America with your family. So tell us about growing up with a mother and a family with Grammy awards and just being on the road like that, because that's something that most kids don't experience.
Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely did get the small town, you know, life in the sense of I don't remember anything really different than what most people describe about small towns. You know, it was like, you know, everybody knew everybody, you know, you had the same stores and high schools and stuff. And you know, Louisiana still being on the parish system, you know, Webster Parish is the area I was from. So I grew up in Cotton Valley, but, you know, I went to school in Minden. I knew people from Sarepta and Spring Hill. And it was, I always tell people who don't know about Louisiana, I'm like, it was basically like a bunch of little small towns and then like one big still small town. You know, that's kind of how it felt. But yeah, man, there were these, you know, music was just always around growing up. You know, it was every family gathering we had, you know, whether it be 4th of July or Christmas or just a random Sunday gathering, you know, the music always came out at some point. And it was amazing. And then there were times, in life where, we got to go on, the road with the family, and it was awesome, man. I loved it. And there was a part of me that kind of rebelled against it, when I was I guess like a preacher's kid would do, the same kind of thing. It's like, I don't want any part of this. That's kind of how I felt for a long time. I was like, well, music was just so around me all the time that I didn't really think I wanted to do it. And then it just sort of always kept calling me, and songwriting was really the thing that got me. I fell in love with songwriting through people like my mom and my uncle Sydney, and then other inspirations like guys like Eric Church and John Mayer. And that's what really drove me to Nashville. Was I started realizing, like, man, I just love writing songs. I want to do this, whatever way I can. And ended up dropping out of community college, after a couple years, and moving to Nashville. But man, yeah, it was a great time. I mean, I got all of the traditional cliche small town experiences that I still write about and miss in a lot of ways living in Nashville. But I also had this constant drip of music in my life that was so informative. It was beautiful. And even with my own kids now, like I obviously don't care the same way that my parents didn't care. I don't care if they do music or whatever they want to do, but I did kind of receive this like appreciation of music that I kind of want to give to my kids too, of like, hey, you don't have to do music, but at least like appreciate the art, because that was a big thing growing up for me. And my mom, it was just a non-negotiable. They kind of made us at least be like, you have to understand that this is beautiful stuff, and I think that's a good thing for people to learn. So I was blessed to grow up like that. And even though I didn't know it until I was older, I appreciate it now looking back.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So, like, most of the time, whenever I have people on, they're like, "Yeah, man, my uncle played guitar, so and so." But your family's like winning Grammys, and like, that's,
yeah,
taking it to the extreme. So, when you were a kid, did you realize that that they were doing something on that level, or was it just like part of everyday life?
I did and I didn't. I knew that they were great at what they did because it was obviously always around, but I do think I was a little bit numb to it until I got to a certain age. Really, I think until I had moved to Nashville. I think when I moved to Nashville, I realized, like, man, they actually had a great career, and like they did some really cool stuff. And like, we always joke about, for us, it was like, it was just they would always travel and then they come back home. They travel, they come back home. They never really moved to Nashville. We took trips to Nashville, but none of my family ever moved to Nashville. So like, for us, it was like, there would be like a Grammy sitting right beside the Lay's potato chips on the bar, at a family gathering or something. And it was just like no big thing. It was like, oh yeah, this is just something that my family, won. And then, years down the road, when I started doing this professionally, I was like, oh man, they really did something, like this was like a real big deal, and it kind of caused me, like, really around the time I started writing Tale of Two Towns, that record. Like I always tell people, when I first moved to Nashville, I was this, young, naive, slightly arrogant, young man. And I think some of that comes with the territory. I think everybody who moves here has a little bit of that ego that, like, I can do this, like I'm good at this.
You almost have to, though, right?
Yeah, it's a necessary evil. I agree. Like I think that there's a certain part of you that has to feel that way to even be willing to leave your hometown. Mm-hmm. But the town and life kind of humbles you, and you grow up and you start to, like, the same way you do when you have kids, you start to look back at your parents, you go, maybe they weren't so crazy, maybe they weren't idiots like I thought they were, like they knew something, and I kind of got to that place with music around my mid-20s when I was starting to write Tale of Two Towns, I was reflecting on my life, and I was thinking about the way that they lived, and like, even, living back in Cotton Valley and kind of going back and forth, and like, why would they do that? I was thinking, this guy who moved to Nashville and is willing to give it all, like, why would you do that? And I felt like I was soul searching in myself for like, what is that part of me there, and all that. And now, like, on the other side of it, I realized, like, they just value their family more than anything, which I can so appreciate now. I really understand, like I was saying at the beginning of this, like the perspective shift once you start having children and you have family. It's like, yeah, nothing's really more important than that. But at the same time, like, just their musical, like their the credibility of their music was something that I realized was really rare. There's a lot of people who come here to do this music thing, and mom and my uncle and my aunts, and my papa, they did it this tried and true way of just like playing music all the time. Like, it's that simple. It's like they wrote songs, they played music, and they went all over the place, and they had all this huge career, and they did it that, old fashioned way that, like, I started getting to this age where I was like, man, that there is something to be said about that, man. That just, like, you can stand in a room of, whether it's your family or like in the Ryman or the Opry, wherever it is, and it's the same thing. It's like, there's no tricks. It's just like people who are really good at music, who have worked to be really good at music, and it shows up. And I kind of wanted my own version of that. I was like, I felt like I kind of was this new school kid who thought, I'll do something different than them. And now, I'm at this age where I go, they had something figured out, I get it,
That's awesome, man. Do you think that you learned something maybe at an early age that you didn't know until you got older, and then you were like, like, music wise, that it hit you later? I think you kind of mentioned a couple of them already, but
for sure. Yeah. I mean, one on the songwriting side, my uncle Sidney he's really the predominant songwriter of our family. And my mom too with him, but my uncle Sidney was like, they called him the scribe. He's a very poetic writer, centric guy, played the guitar. And I used to go over to his house all the time. We lived right down the road. I would walk to his house or drive the four-wheeler down, and I spent a lot of time over there. And the writing part of it is something that is so, the way they wrote songs was so different than the way that I've experienced writing songs in Nashville. They would write songs almost more because they had to be written, rather than like, we got to get a song today, guys. Like, we're getting, we need to write a song by 4:00. It's like, that wasn't really how they thought about writing songs. They just kind of wrote songs because they felt like it needed to be written. And so that was one of those things that, as I got into the publishing world and I got into like writing 4 or 5 days a week, I really had this, internal struggle in me that was like, I get why certain people need to do that. And if that's what you want to do, then more power to you. But I kind of found myself in my mid-20s going like, yeah, I've written a lot of songs. I don't really need another song just to like have another song. What I really need is, I need a song that needs to be written. And that's really shifted my whole creative approach, because nowadays I don't really get stressed anymore about like, I haven't written 30 songs this year. It's like, yeah, but I'm just going to write the ones that feel like they need to be written. The ones that haunt me, they'll get written. But, another random song, who really cares, and they always kind of had that approach. And then the other one that I'm learning right now, because I'm working a lot more with my mom, is just the value of practice overall, but specifically as it pertains to like parts, like playing with people. Harmony, man, harmony. They were, bluegrass is such a harmony rich tradition. And they were so practiced and rehearsed with it. And I'll tell you, as a guy who, you know, maybe undervalued that and was singing most my own stuff my whole life, or at least my professional career here in Nashville, it is a learning curve. I mean, like, you start to sing harmony with people, you're like, dang, this is like, I mean, there is a science to this stuff that is
Yeah.
just so fascinating. And but once you start figuring it out, you're like, oh, it's actually fun. It's really fun. But like a lot of, you know, a lot of us as the grandkids, we kind of get a little intimidated by it growing up. Like, it's like, you know, we're talking about baritone and soprano and alto parts. And like, it just was a little over my head. And I'm not even claiming that I've got it all figured out, but I do know that, like, as I'm kind of relearning some of these songs with my mom now, I'm like, man, there is a real craft to that stuff once you start figuring it out, you're like, dude, you guys were like amazing at that. And now I'm having like this reappreciation of, you know, my family and like all the stuff that I used to be numb to growing up, where I was like, yeah, I've heard them sing it out. Now I'm kind of going like, dude, they're great, you know, like, which is fun, you know.
And I'm gonna get to some of those. I'm gonna get to towards the end. I'm gonna talk about your mom and some of the videos you guys are doing. I definitely want to talk about that. That's amazing. That harmony, man, that you guys are doing is just, a lot of people might hear that don't understand music, and they might think harmony is easy, but that's one of the more difficult parts to me about music.
It is really difficult. And like, I'm at this spot where we're doing a lot of old hymns, you know, and like these old songs that, like, to your point, kind of seem really like, yeah, I mean, it's just like a lullaby, like anybody knows this song. But it's like, man, you start trying to sing some harmony on some of these, you start hearing the chords, you're like, oh wow, there's a 3 major in there and there's a 4 minor in there. Like, it starts going, like, your brain starts going like, this is pretty difficult stuff. But like, again, like my mom always talks about it, she's like, for her it was like putting together like a puzzle. And when I was younger, I kind of thought, I didn't really think about it. I thought it was kind of boring, you know, and then now as I get older, I'm like, you know, she's right. It is like putting together, it's like a puzzle, but with your ears, you know, and you're hearing that person sing something and you're like, how can I blend with, and when you hit it, man, it's like magic. The resonation, it's magic. It's magic.
Man, so at what point did you feel like that you wanted to build sort of your own musical identity and sort of go off and do your own thing?
Yeah, I feel like I had that in me early on. I was a little bit of, and I guess that's what makes me kind of, like you were saying earlier, the necessary evil of the ego and all these things. Like, I think that I just, from maybe when I was around 15, 16 years old, you know, which is the natural rebellious years. We all experience that. I think that I always just had this, you know, inner voice in me that like wanted to do things my own way. And for a long time that was, you know, for me, it was like, I didn't even want to do music. And then it shifted to when I did want to do music. I was like, okay, well, I want to do music, but I want to do music my own way. Like, I want to do music. I don't want to do what the Cox family did. I don't want to do what my mom did. I don't want to do, and I kind of like, I like the prodigal son, you know, like I ran from that stuff. And some of it was, you know, good. Some of it I found out on the other side was sort of me just being rebellious, because there is a part of me that is deeply connected to that stuff. But like, I always wanted to like carve my own path, man. And I think that I for whatever reason, maybe it's because I'm a descendant of artists like that. My dad also is a business owner, so I kind of have this natural entrepreneurial spirit in me that like wanted to go do my own thing. And so like, I would probably say like, yeah, around 15, 16, like when I started writing songs, I was immediately like interested in going like, I want to do my own thing. Now, I didn't know that was going to lead me to Nashville. But when I got to Nashville, it became more, it was the same thing. It was more and more evident that I was like, man, I don't want to do what everybody else does. And I think that's, you know, some would say it's a blessing and a curse, I guess, because, you know, I guess you can maybe make a lot more money doing what everybody else is doing. But for me, I just kind of always had this thing in me that was like, man, I have songs that I'm haunted by, and I have things that I'm haunted by. And for me, that's like my creative North Star. And I have to honor that, even if it's not the most fashionable thing right now. I have to do it. And you know, that's kind of been really my thing since the beginning, is just sort of going with where the creativity leads me. So yeah, I would say that I've always kind of had that in me. But you know, as I've gotten older, like I said, you know, things change. It's like that part is still in me. Like even with the stuff that I'm singing with my mom now, like I find myself putting my own flavor into it, where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what if we did it this way? You know what I mean? Like, what if we did that same song, but we did it like this? You know, I find those things come out in me, but I'm at this age now where I'm 31 years old. I'm starting to connect that childlike, you know, rebelliousness and like, I'm going to do things my own way with this kind of older, more mature, like, well, it's actually not as far away from the thing you grew up with as you think it is. You know what I mean? They're kind of closer than you think. And that's kind of where I'm at now creatively, is I'm sort of blending those worlds of like the thing I always wanted to be, but kind of combined a little bit with this old heritage, tradition, roots thing that I grew up with, you know, even like you know, like we're doing right now, Louisiana, you know, like a lot of it is connected to even the real estate of like, I moved to Nashville from Louisiana. There's this part of my brain that's connecting back to like Louisiana and going like, well, don't just lose that. Don't lose that thing. Cause that's who you are. You know, just because you're here now, you can learn a lot from Nashville, and Nashville's amazing, but you're from Louisiana. Like that's who you are. And that's what's going to resonate the most with people who love your kind of music, you know? So it's, I think it's a maturation process, you know, that I think we all go through.
Yeah, I love that, man. It's a great answer. And I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer. And you're obviously a very diverse writer and a very diverse artist. I've been listening to a lot of your stuff. And so, I mean, I think that it's really cool to push those boundaries because each generation does it slightly different. But like you said, you do it a little different, and then you realize, well, it's really not that different than what they were doing. But it's different enough that it progresses the genre and it keeps pushing.
Sure.
And they like being challenged. You know, it's like, okay, these kids came in and they took it to this level and all of that. And sometimes they moan and complain about these kids these days, but ultimately it's good for the genre to continue to evolve. You know, I'm a big believer of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Last question about the family, and then I want to move into some of your music. But I'm curious on this one. So when you moved to Nashville, or you just started doing music in general, did you feel a lot of pressure because of the success that they had, or was it more of a motivation thing? What was that sense of?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think it was a bit of both. I will say when I was younger, it was more of a motivation. When I was younger, I had this kind of, you know, again, for no other reason than just the fact that I was a young, naive, you know, full of energy kind of, you know, kid, which, you know, we all are at some point. But like, I kind of had it as like this, I want to prove myself. I'm motivated by their success. Now, as I've gotten older, it's more, I've noticed it in my, you know, mid-20s. I started feeling it more where I was like, oh, now it's like this, I want to hold the bar where they held the bar, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't want to let them down. I don't want to let the people who are their fans down. So it's this kind of in between, like, because I still feel this part of me, you know, that's like, well, I want to like go beyond what they did, hopefully. Like, I want to like take their legacy and go even further. But there's this other part of me now on the side of like kind of honoring them, where I'm realizing like, yeah, but also they had a great career. I mean, like even in their little small way, they may have not been, you know, as famous as Elvis Presley or Taylor Swift, but like to be nominated for CMAs and to win Grammys and to be a part of the things that they've been a part of is a pretty big deal. And I think also the other part of it is I was kind of coming from the outside looking in when I was young. So it's easy. And I tell, when occasionally I'll have young kids, even some from Louisiana, from the area that I'm from, moving up here. And, when they're asking me advice, I try not to give advice unless it's asked of me, because I'm like, look, I know enough to know I don't know anything. That's where I'm at now. But I will say, like, there is this part of you that you can see in a younger person. When I'm talking to a young person now, 20, 21 years old, I'm like, yeah, it's easy to have these thoughts when you're on the outside looking in. When you get in the machine, when you get in the music industry and you're in it deep for 4, 5, 6 years, that's when I think you start to really respect. You're like, oh, actually, dang, to win 5 Grammys is pretty amazing. Like, it's easy to think that you can come in and just be like, I'm going to blow them out of the water. But then it's like you get in it and you go, man, it's a big accomplishment, to even be. My mom always says this, and it's a great point. It's like to even be nominated for that kind of stuff is a huge deal. So like now I'm at this place where I'm going like, well, I just mostly want to make them proud. And I mostly want to try to carry on their legacy as much as I possibly can in my own way. But I definitely see it as more of like, I can feel the pressure more now than I did when I was younger.
Yeah, I like that answer. There's a couple things in there that you said that kind of stand out to me. So I think what you're saying is that there's pressure, but it's more of a standard that you want to hold than feeling like they're putting pressure on you or whatever. It's just that standard that you want to hold.
Right.
And then the other thing that kind of jumps out to me is, when you're coming up and this and that, everybody tells you how great you are, and everybody in your town says, "Oh, you're the best." But you get to Nashville and you realize, man, these guys and gals in the business, they've heard everything. Like you're not going to blow them away. I mean, they're going to be like, oh, you're really good. But at the end of the day, it's they've heard it all. They've heard the most talented people in the world. And to get in the machine and to win those awards and do all that, it's very difficult. So yeah.
Yes.
How talented you are.
Yeah, you're the, you think because you're the best in your hometown that like that's going to carry over, and then you realize like, oh, you're just, now it's like playing D1 sports. It's like, well, everybody hears the best from their hometown. Like, you know what I mean? Like every song. And I remember somebody telling me that when I was younger, when I first moved to Nashville, and it's true. It's like everybody's good here. Like, I mean, just about everybody's good here. I mean, nowadays it's a little bit different because of the internet and everything, but like for the most part, when you get in the industry, songwriters, artists, like just about everybody's pretty freaking good. And so you do have to do something that is either unique or different, or like you have to be something that is like, to your point, like or like what we're saying, the standard, like you have to like maintain this standard of like, this guy is undoubtedly like amazing. Otherwise, it's like very easy for you to just kind of get moved to the side. And I think for me, like I will say, like being in my family, that prepared me for Nashville, because I kind of felt like I already had that. Like I already had sort of a really high standard.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I'm downstairs right before this interview. Me and my mom right now are singing through old hymns. We're like, we got the old hymnal out, and my mom still does it to me. She's like, no, you're on the wrong note. You're on the wrong, you know what I mean? It's like, and it's like my mom and my uncle and my aunts, and they were all like that. They were very sophisticated listeners, very like their dad kind of trained them to be this way. And like, so I kind of felt like I was really prepared for that. So when I got to Nashville, it was sort of like, oh, okay, this is just like a broader version of my family.
Yeah, you can't be more critical on my
Yeah,
harmonies than my mom has
yeah,
already.
exactly. Yes, yeah. No
That's awesome,
joke,
man.
dude.
So, dude, I may be wrong about this because this is kind of crazy, but I read that you were offered a publishing deal at the age of 20, and then you actually turned it down. Is that
Yeah,
true?
that I mean, and again, I would kind of thank my family and some of the people that were in my life because of my family for that, because I just I again I yeah I don't even want to brag on myself because I was an idiot at that age, but like, and it was definitely enticing, and I totally understand why anyone would you know want to jump right into that. But yeah, I kind of had this thought, and it's still something that carries with me today. Like I have a lot of opportunities right now to do stuff with people, and there's just this part of me that's always been there that's a little bit like, well, if it doesn't feel, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, right? There's that always lives with me of like, if you're not completely convinced this is the right thing, it's probably best you just keep moving. Um, but
I love that.
the other part of it is like, it's just at that age, I feel like I didn't really know who I was yet, and I didn't really know how I could help them and how they could help me. And it ended up being the right decision because I did feel like it allowed me a certain amount of time to kind of like walk my own path. Because and that's another thing I would give advice to anybody who's coming here is like, and that's kind of what I meant by like, we're all Louisiana guys. We came from Louisiana, we moved to another place, and people do this all the time, and it's a normal part of life. And I encourage it. I think it's great to get out and see the world and be informed by the world. But I think especially when you're young and malleable, and you're really like you're able to be shaped by people and their opinions, you got to really be careful because you could very easily like lose the thing in you that was special in the first place. And I've seen it with friends of mine. I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in a lot of people where it's like you all of a sudden start shifting the things that you like and that you do, and it becomes this kind of like boring, homogenized version of something that's like, man, you had something. You had a little spark, and you turned it into this other thing, and it may even be good, but it's not unique. It's not different. It's not interesting. And I think that's one of the biggest things people fall into is they immediately get right off into the races doing this stuff. And like I said, we've all got friends who've worked in this business who've done this. We even probably see it in ourselves. It's like you kind of get to this phase where you have to like reevaluate all of your choices, and you're like, man, I don't even know if I like what I'm writing. I've been writing songs for 4 years, and I don't even know if I enjoy any of this. And I think that's what happens. And I think for me, luckily, I was around people like, my mom, my uncle, my aunts, people like Allison Krause, who I've been fortunate enough to know since I was a kid. It's like, and they just all kind of advise this, like, nurture that part of you that is artistically true to who you are. Don't let somebody else, don't be tricked by the dangling carrot. It's like, you just kind of sometimes just walk your own path. And even if you fail on that, that's still better than becoming something that you're not.
Yeah, man, I think we've done maybe like 30 something episodes in a row right now. Since we started, we haven't missed a Tuesday night. And that last answer might have been one of my favorite 2 or 3 minutes that we've done since we started
Thank you,
this.
brother.
That's great.
I appreciate
I
that,
mean,
dude.
it's really great perspective and really great advice. And even at my old age, it's still something. Even as you get older, it's still something that is a challenge in everyday life. And I think that what you said about not losing that spark and that thing that makes you special, that's really powerful. So I hope that a lot of up and comers that are watching this. I hope that might be some of the best advice that we've had on the show so far. And I know you didn't say,
Thanks,
I know you don't love giving advice, but that was great, man.
Thank you, brother.
Moving in. So in 2018, you signed with Monument Records. And in 2019, you had a huge debut single with Rules of Breaking Up. What was it like to have that type of hit and those type of numbers and that success with your first single?
Man, it was a whirlwind. I mean, 2018 and 2019 were that was the moment where I thought, like, okay, I figured it out. I cracked the code. You know, little did I know I was just getting started. And really, it was my first introduction into like the music business. You know, because what I've learned since then is like a lot of this world we're in is about timing and just like where the culture is and like these weird things that go on behind the scenes, you know, that like can take something really good, put it in the right moment, and it's like a God thing, you know. It's like all of a sudden that thing worked, you know. And I learned through 2019 there's also some more sinister business stuff that can happen that can do the opposite of that thing. I won't get into that here, but yes, you know, it was a real learning lesson of like, this song is white hot, it's huge, provided a ton of opportunity for me that I'm still, you know, thankful for. And like, I'm kind of at this age where I'm even like reappreciating. For a long time, I didn't like playing that stuff because I kind of got away from it. You know, you get a little older, you start going like, that's, who cares about that stuff?
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to remind yourself like, well, man, it was you, it was where you were at the time, you know, and like people really like that. And I think it's hard a lot of times for artists to see that, like, hey, if somebody else likes this, man, you know, just play it. There's value in it. And like, you might not see it right now, but you saw it back then and somebody else still sees it. And so I'm kind of at this age where I'm reappreciating a lot of these things, even that I didn't, you know, like as I got older. But it was really, the Rules Breaking Up in particular was my first introduction into just the real music business. You know, I got to go on my first tour because of it. Learned a ton about that lifestyle and what it's like to go on the road. And again, like, I grew up getting to go on buses and doing all this, but it's just different when you're the guy doing all those things. Like when it's your writer and your green room and your band, and like, you're the one making the set list and do this. It's like all that stuff. Like, you're the one driving to, you know, from Erie, Pennsylvania to wherever, you know. And it was just a big learning lesson. Some of the funnest memories I've ever had. It was amazing. Got to see a lot of the country, got to make some beautiful friends and fans that I still have today. But more than anything, I'll say the thing I think back about that year was it was just a big lesson on like, oh, this is the music business that you didn't know about, you know. That I learned.
Man, one of my first conversations in Nashville years ago, a guy sat me down and he was like, hey, you know, you're a nice guy, you've got some talent, these things, but he was like, people forget it's called music business. He said, everybody forgets about that second word. So he said, always remember that word and you're going to be fine. But
yes,
he said, that's where people get off. Yeah.
Yeah, you think it's all about the, you know, and that's a hard one. I think specifically for creative people, it's really tough to swallow the pill that it is not just about your talent. In fact, nowadays in particular, but really since the beginning, the talent is like, yeah, there's a lot of people who aren't talented who are incredibly successful and some really, really talented people we all know. And I mean, even you take a guy like Chris Stapleton, who, you know, most of us love. Chris Stapleton's amazing. I think he's like maybe the best male vocalist of our generation in any genre, you know. But like, that guy was like just slumming it in Nashville for like 20 years, you know. Like, and people knew he was good, but like, that's just not enough. There's these other things that you don't know that like until you're in the beast, you're in the machine, you start to go, oh yeah, there is so much more than just like that song's great, or like you're a great singer or a great guitar player. It's like there's some weird stuff that goes on behind those doors, you know.
Without being getting in the weeds too much, and without being negative Nancy or anything like that about it, are there some things that you can share, that you can think of, that you learned about the music industry that you were like, oh wow, I didn't know that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I won't get too deep off into the weeds. I definitely have a lot of stories that are I'm just gonna keep to myself.
I don't want to set you up for you to get off the
Yeah,
interview later and be like, oh, he led me
yeah,
down this
yeah.
road now.
Well, I guess one of them is part of what we're talking about here. One of them I learned is just how relational, some would call it political, but relational things are in really any business, but the music industry in particular. So even this conversation we're having, like I could sit here and tell y'all, I could get into like the dirty nitty gritty of like some real like gossip of like what, and not even like hearsay, like legitimately what happened to me and other people.
Yeah.
But what you learn is even that sharing that comes with consequences, because there's people all over the place that you're constantly trying to go, wow, I don't want to tick that guy off, and I don't want to say this, I don't want to say this. And you learn that through going through it. You don't even realize, like when I was younger, like I didn't realize how much that stuff is in play. And a lot of it, again, for me, had nothing to do with me. But I learned that even what I say, it's like, man, those things have that guy that might have been an intern at that thing, he's now like the head of A&R at this thing, or he like runs the Spotify playlist thing, and like you ticked him off. Like that stuff happens so frequently, and it happens sometimes. Like if you're an artist like I was, what happened to me was, and a lot of the guys who were at Monument, and again, this is just a very generic, I'm not calling any names, anything, but you become collateral damage sometimes to things that are far beyond your pay grade, that you have nothing to do with, that are like, you know, there's these powerful people that may or may not like each other, and may or may not have their infrastructures together. And you just become collateral damage to that. As an artist, it's like, you realize like these people, they don't really, you know, care about you personally. It's just these power dynamics. Now, some people, fortunately for me, I've worked with a lot of great people. I've got nothing to say about just about everybody I've ever worked with. Personally speaking, I have great relationships with, and I've ended on good terms with, and I really do believe their hearts were in the right place. But there's other things around those people that even they don't perceive at the time that can hurt you. And man, a lot of this stuff, like that's what it is. It's like, I always tell friends, like my analogy is this. I always say, you know, visibility is everything. You could be the mightiest oak in the woods, and if nobody's around to hear you fall, it never even happened. That's how I feel about it. It's like you could be the most talented guy ever, and if you don't have some of those things line up for you, and you don't have the right friends or the right network, it may work out. Lord willing, maybe it will. But you don't want to go around making too many enemies, because there's a lot of people that can close those doors for you. And look, my story there, you guys can dig into. There's tons of stories like that that are probably public knowledge, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a wild industry, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. What are some things that you learned on the road, man? It says you were on the road with Keith Urban and Kelsey Ballerini and several others. What are some things that you learned from those experiences?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the road is fun, man. It is fun, but it's also like, it's a lifestyle change, you know? And again, I think for me, again, going back to the perspective shift, now that I have children, I have a wife, you know, it's totally different. Here, I'm waking up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and my kids are waking me up, and I'm a dad. I'm in the thing where the road, you're kind of like, your schedule's all over the place. Sometimes you're staying up till 2, 3 in the morning. You might not wake up until, 10 o'clock, or you might have to wake up at 6 for bus call and like hit the road again or whatever. It's a weird world. And I think the thing that I learned about it was like, one thing is when it comes to bands, you want to prioritize a good hang over even a good musician, because you got to spend a lot of time together, and there's a lot of great musicians out there, but it's just like that old saying, like, you don't really know somebody till you live with them. It's kind of the same thing about being on a bus. It's like when you're on the road or in a van, or hotels, it's like, dude, you start to see parts of people that you're like, oh man, I didn't know this about you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that we'd be buddies. So I would say that's one of the biggest things. And then the other thing is too, it's fun. I mean, it is fun. It's very fun getting to see the world. But like my wife always tells me, she's always like, well, you've seen so much of the world without me or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, kind of. But at the same time, like, you don't really get to see it. Like, I mean, there's so many places I've been to that I haven't really been to, because it's like I was there in a hotel. I went straight to the venue. I sound checked. We played a show. We headed out because we had a radio performance the next morning to the neighboring town. It's like you didn't really get to go there, so, but, you enjoy it for what it is. And ultimately, I think it is a lifestyle that, like, certain creative people are they find enjoyment in. And like, even for me, like, I could still find joy in it. Now, I wouldn't want to do it like I was doing it in the past, but it still is like, when you're out there, it's fun, man. And it's music is a powerful thing. And when you see people really show up and getting into it, it's fun. And I'll say one other thing, not to bend your ear too long on this, but here's one of the craziest experiences I learned on the road. So I've never, even to this day, have never perceived myself as famous. When I had a big song, when I had a big moment online, anytime I've ever had anything big, I don't know if everybody feels that way. Maybe Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, or those guys don't feel this. Maybe they understand, like, oh, I'm really famous. But like, for me, like, I've never once thought of myself as famous. Maybe famous in a small town, but not famous, But I'll tell you this. This is one thing I've learned on the road, and I've taken people out on the road with me to show them this. When you are on stage that night in that arena, you are famous. And I learned this when I went on the road with Kelsey Ballerini and Brett Young. It was my first tour I ever did. And I was talking to my tour manager at the time, and I was like, hey man, I'd like to go out and like watch, I was trying to learn. I was a student. I was like, I want to go out and see their show. So like, can you take me to like front of house or something and like, let me watch the show? And he goes, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, and before, you got to understand, before the show, nobody knew who I was. There's maybe like 10 people, 15 people knew who I was in this whole 6,000 seater venue, And I was like, yeah, I want to go see the show. And he goes, all right. And he walks me out, and I experienced the total mind F of like, it flipped. I was like, I could have walked anywhere in that place before I played my 30-minute set. And as soon as I got done, I walked out into that crowd, and we had to leave within like 5-6 minutes. Cause it was just like, people were like, oh my God, like, Brandon, they were like freaking out. And for me, it was a major, like, I was like, oh my God. Like, I went in 30 minutes, I went from being a guy who nobody in here knew to like, now I'm a distraction to the show. Like, I tried doing it. Same thing with Keith Urban. When Keith Urban reopened the Coliseum, I wanted to go out and see the show. Same thing. I had to leave because it became a distraction so much where people were like, there was a mosh pit forming, and I was like, dude, this is the guy who's famous. He's playing on stage right now, But you know, and I've done it to friends of mine. I've taken my brother out on the road. I've taken people and I've brought them up on stage to show them, like, hey, if you come up here tonight in this crowd, you'll be famous.
Yeah.
Like you'll
Tomorrow,
walk.
tomorrow you're back to
Yeah.
normal. But tonight,
Tonight you're famous. Yeah. Oh
um,
man.
man, I don't want to keep you too long, man, but I do, because I'm having a good time, man, and I do have a couple more questions I wanted to get to if you have a couple more minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. So we all tend to, as writers, man, we all tend to sort of write towards what we think might get played or might think people want to hear, whatever you want to call it. Was there a moment where you first felt that you could be like fully honest with yourself when writing and you could just write whatever you wanted to?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, man. I was just talking to a young, I'm now at this age where I definitely am not old by any means, but like I'm an elder statesman, I guess, in Nashville. I've been here 12 years. So like I'm experiencing these younger guys, you know, some from Louisiana coming up and talking to me and they're asking me questions about songwriting and I always I try to give this advice to everybody. And again, it's like, it's tough because everybody's got their own path. But like the good part about, dropped my phone there. The good part about Nashville is this. You know, when you're young, you do need to, I think, understand the rules. And I think some of us can like overlook the rules. Like, but it's like playing a sport, right? It's like to say I can golf any way I want to, or I can shoot a basketball anyway. It's like, well, yeah, you can, but like, if you really want to be a good golfer, or if you really want to be a good basketball player, you need to like ingest the way that people play. There's an art to this. You know what I mean? Like, so like learning how to format a song and like, you know, not say cliches that everybody's heard 1,000 times. And like those things, that's what's good about a place like Nashville. But then at some point you will get to this place where you've learned enough of that and you're like, okay, I get how to write a song now. Then I think it's important to like tap back into that thing that like drove you here in the first place. And that's where, you know, for me, it was like my mid-20s. You know, and I know a lot of writers who are this way, where you start going, okay, I know how to write a song now. I'm good at like writing write down the ball, but you know, give me a title, I can write you a song. But then it's like, well, what speaks to you? You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of going back to the thing I was saying earlier about my mom and my uncle, is like, what song needs to be written by you in your specific way? And for me, I think the big learning lesson was when I was like deep into my early years of writing songs with a publishing company, you know, we were always trying to write these songs for like Jason Aldean or like Blake Shelton or whoever, you know. And what I realized after some time was that there's a couple things with that. One is the moment you write something that you think is perfect for that guy, the reason why they're probably not going to be into that is because you think it's perfect for that guy. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's like
they're trying to move on. Yeah.
Yeah. You just wrote the most cliche version of a song that they've ever heard. And they're like, dude, I've heard this song 1,000,000 times. Like the only thing that's going to get my attention as a guy who's had that many hits is something that's a little bit weird or a little bit different. Or like, what was that? That was kind of interesting. And really, in my experience, the only way you can get to that is by just being who you are. Like, write the thing that you like. And if that thing finds somebody like a Tim McGraw or like a Blake Shelton or whoever it is, Morgan Wallen and whatever, then great. But like, what happens if you don't do that is you end up writing a lot of songs that are like songs for no one. Because you wrote it so much for this guy that you don't really even like it. You were hoping he'd like it. And now you got like 150 songs in the can that you're like, well, those really are nobody's now. Whereas where I think real maturity comes in writing is when you go, let's write a song that like we actually enjoy. And hopefully if it's a really good song, we can fight over it. That's a great place to be. And so now that's kind of my barometer for songs, is like, I don't really care about what anybody's looking for or whatever. I want to write something that I enjoy and that speaks to me. And then I know, it's like kinetic energy, man. I tell people this all the time. It's like, if you're having fun in a writing room and you are laughing and like, oh my God, this was awesome, that energy transfers to people. Now, I'm not saying it's going to get, who knows if it's going to get cut, because that's a whole nother game. But it's at least going to have a way higher likelihood of making someone feel that same thing that you felt in the room when you were writing it, So I would say, like, to anybody, like, hey, if you're young and you're coming up, go write like crazy. And then eventually learn everything you can. And then eventually, once you do that, like, lean into the thing that you like. And then write those songs, because that's going to be more interesting to everybody. I just think if you're trying to write something you think everybody else is going to like, it's like, dude, you're already going the wrong way.
Yeah, there's so many other people writing that same exact song, pitching to the same exact guy too. So I mean, it's just the odds are against you already.
Exactly.
So man, in sort of a full circle, you mentioned in the universe, and sort of a full circle way, which the universe tends to work pretty often. You're doing some really cool videos on socials right now with your mom. So tell us kind of how these videos came to be, and what these videos mean to you, because it's got to be special.
Yeah, man. Dude, it is for sure full circle, because I'll tell you what, like, and it kind of goes to the point we were just talking about songwriting. I went back home for the holidays just this past year, and I'm at this age where, I wrote a record about this. You guys go check it out if you want, Tale of Two Towns. But like, I left my hometown, and when I left, I wanted to like never see it again, almost, except for my family. Now I'm at this age where I'm sort of like, I'm reappreciating all these things, and I'm going back home, and I'm like, man, I kind of like it here. It's kind of nice. I like growing up here, and I like visiting here, and we went back for a long trip, and I, was a little bit disillusioned, as most artists were, with TikTok and Instagram. And I had kind of gotten to this point where I was like, my motto had been, hold on loosely, but don't let go. Like, just, post on there when you feel inspired, but like, don't feel this pressure to be like, you gotta post on TikTok twice a day or 3 times a day. I just had kind of let that go. And I was even telling my mom, I was like, I had all but given up that was going to be my path. Not that I wasn't going to post anymore, but that like the internet would be my path to success. And it was almost at the same time that I had let that go that I started posting in this new like freedom of like, I wasn't posting anymore because I was obligated to post. I was posting because I enjoyed these songs. And so I was like, hey, I'm just going to do stuff that I would do anyway, and I'm going to post it. And so one day I was hanging out on the land that I grew up on, me and my brother, in a little shotgun trailer. We were right in the front yard. And me and my mom were just singing songs like we always do, just when we're together. And we sang a couple songs, and they did pretty good. I was like, okay, wow, this is like better than most of the videos I've done in a long time. And then I came back the next day. I was like, hey, let's do another one. And we did I Am Weary in front of this old like drill and rig truck right in front of the house that I grew up in. And it just went like viral, man. Like, it just blew up. And I'm telling you, like, I had zero expectations. Like, I was just doing it literally just for fun. And I found myself on the other side of it going like, maybe that's the thing. Some of it is like a God's timing thing, but some of it is also like, maybe that mindset is what made it work. Is like, you, for the first time in maybe forever, we're not thinking about the outcome. you were just thinking about the input. Like, man, I just want to do this because I want to do it. You know, the most beautiful things we do are the things we do for the sake of those things, you know? So like music, the most beautiful way to make music is just making music for the sake of making music. As soon as you enter in this, like, I want to write a hit to make a bunch of money, or I want to like be famous, it all of a sudden it perverts this thing that's supposed to be good. And for me, almost accidentally, this thing with me and my mom was just this way of us bonding, this way of us kind of spending time together. And it just freaking blew up, man. And like all of a sudden now we're making an EP, you know, where we're going in and we're cutting music. And it has been such a blessing, man. It's been such it's a gift for me to be able to spend more time with my mom, to like do something that she loves, that I love. We've been talking about doing music together for years, but really had never had like, you know, any plans. And then all of a sudden we start posting these songs and they're blowing up. And so I'm like, we should do this. Like, let's go to the studio and like cut some songs, you know? And so, man, it has been like, and honestly, like to your point in this whole podcast, we've been talking about this, but like, just the full circleness of the whole thing. And like me being at the age I'm at, my mom being at the age she's at, you know, we've both had our own careers, and like, just kind of like being able to do something together and it find people and resonate with people has been amazing, man. And honestly, I'll say this to close on this. I think in general, the stuff that you do that you feel like you have the least control over, and that's kind of what I mean by the not worrying about the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
When you're worried about things like, is this going to be a hit? Is this going to be like on this playlist, or this going to be this viral thing? You know, the things that you do just for the sake of doing them, you can't lose with doing that stuff. Because even if it doesn't do, you know, radio success or virality or whatever, you still had fun doing it. You still loved the process of doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that stuff, it translates to people, man. I think people can feel that.
Yeah, and what's funny is you know, when we grow up, we think our parents aren't very cool and stuff like that, and then now you're getting a little older, you're like, dang, Mom, you're pretty cool.
I know, yeah, dude. I've been telling Mom, I had to tell her, I was like, you got to get on and read these comments, because like you're the superstar in these videos. Like I am literally like wallpaper. Like, and I love it. I'm your biggest cheerleader. I'm your fan over here. You know, so it's really cool, man.
I think you said the right word though, man. It's just really a blessing for you to be able to have that moment, man, because I mean, how many people in the world would like to be able to experience something that significant, something that special with the mom, you know, especially we're all mama's boys, and to be able to share something like that, it truly is. It's a blessing. And it's really cool that you're aware of that blessing while you're doing it. And it's not something you look back on and be like, oh, that was a blessing. You're aware of it in real time, which makes it even more special.
That's right, man. I totally agree. I'm like, you know, I'm at this age where I'm noticing my parents getting older. You know, I've got kids of my own now, and like, family is just so important to me, man. I want to spend every waking moment, as much time as I can, with my family. And to have this gift of like, you know, us being able to share this music together, but also to give us another excuse to be together and to like bond through music and these, you know, spiritual songs, these gospel songs. Man, it's just, it's a gift, and it is something that I never thought God would have in my path, but I'm so happy it is, you know.
You never know how he's working, man. That's for sure.
That's right. That's right, man.
Kind of wrapping up here. So now that you've had success as the world defines it, and you've had plenty of it so far, and you're still so young, man. But how do you define success moving forward in your career?
Oh man, that's the best question right there. For me, I think I'll go back to a lot of what we've been talking about. A lot of my life has been the last couple years a real perspective shift, and I think, this is a little bit spiritual. Which everything is a little spiritual for me, but like, I think where I started finding true joy again in music and like, professional stuff in general was when I kind of like laid those things down. When I was willing to sacrifice those things for something that was greater than those things. And that is my family. That's that's my wife, my children, my my mom, my dad, my brother, all my family. It's like I'm at this point where I realize, like, what is life really all about? And for the longest time for me, like we were talking about at the beginning of this, some of that stuff is a necessary evil, man. It's what moves you to a place like Nashville. It's like, I want to have this big career. I want to be famous. I want to, I want to make tons of money. I want to do all this. And a lot of those things you don't know at the time, but they're really shallow goals. They're very hollow things. And now I'm just kind of at this place in life where it's like, man, I want to make music because I love making music. I'm kind of like getting back to the beginning of it, but with a more mature mindset of like, I have things that actually matter to me. I have real deep family ties and bonds. I have a daughter, I have a son, I have a wife, all these things. But I'm kind of like tapping back into that like childlike part of me that was like, why'd you want to start making music in the first place? Because, and a buddy of mine said this to me the other day, and it's a great point. Like, nobody starts playing music because they're like, I want to make a ton of money. I want to be like super famous. It's like most people just start playing music because they love making music, man. And like, they just can't help them. They can't help themselves. It's like, I just want to pick up the guitar. I want to write songs. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I think that is like such an essential, I hate to use this word because it's so overused nowadays, but for your like mental and spiritual health.
Yeah.
I just think that's a good place to be, man. It's like separating your identity from music, but like at the same time, like reminding yourself like why you even started doing music. What was the whole point? Because you can lose your way. You get out into the world, and you get out into the industry and all these things, and you start. Your goals start going like, all of a sudden I'm thinking of this thing, and it's like, well, that was never really what it was about. That was never really what you wanted to do this for in the first place. So like for me now, how I define success is being a good man, being a good friend, a good father, a good husband, and making the thing that I feel like God has put on my heart to make. And whatever happens with that, just being at peace with it, like not being concerned with the outcome. Like if it is the most famous thing in the world, and next thing I'm like the second coming of Morgan Wallen, then great. If that happens, I will do my best to be a good steward of it and give those gifts back to the world. But if not, great. Then I'm still a husband. I'm a father. I'm a friend. I'm that's the thing that is the most important to me. That's the thing that is my bedrock, my anchor, my foundation. I'm a child of God, and so at the end of the day, I'm like, all of that stuff doesn't matter. And what's funny about that is I think that makes you a better creator because you're creating it from a free place. You're not creating for anything else other than like, I just thought this was cool. And I want to make that. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, great. Like either way, I'm just going to do my thing. And I think that's like, to me, that is success. Once you get to that place, that's peace. We all want peace. I think that's peace.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I'm really enjoying this interview, man. I really enjoy the perspective that you have on things, and you're the kind of guy in the kind of place right now that really radiates that peace, and I think that's contagious. And I think that people watching this interview, I hope that a lot of the up and comers watch this because just what you're putting out into the universe in this interview is something that I think could be contagious for them. And if they take some of this in, it could really go a long ways, not only helping them as an artist, but as a human in a very crazy industry.
For
So
sure.
I definitely appreciate you taking some time and giving some very thoughtful answers on those
Thanks,
questions.
man. Thanks, Ronnie. I appreciate that, brother.
Couple lighthearted ones before we get out of here, man. What are some things that you miss about the boot state, man?
Oh man, I was just telling. This is a random one. The first thing that came to my mind. I miss a good old fashioned sausage biscuit. Now I know that seems crazy, but up here in Nashville, they don't got a lot of those. Like you get out from those places. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, a buddy of mine, I do a little contracting work on the side, and I've got this one buddy who will eat anything. He'll go to a Circle K gas station and eat something. And he was calling me a snob. He's like, you won't eat from a gas station? And I'm like, no, dude. And he was like, you never eat from a gas station. I'm like, well, it's different where I'm from, because where I'm from in these little small towns, you got gas stations that actually make like banging food. Like their sausage biscuits are sold out by like 7:45. They're gone. You got to get there early. And like, catfish or whatever. And he was like, he kind of got what I was getting at, but I'm like, yeah, that's something that like, I'm dying for like a good old sausage biscuit and egg, and I can't ever get it, But yeah, I would say just like that, and just like the wide open spaces and like the roads that I drove where I know I could drive them with my eyes closed. But like, I'm at this phase where I romanticize it more now. I wanted to get away from it. Now I'm going back and I'm like, dude, I love it here. It's great. Yeah. You go at night, it's so quiet. Here, where I'm at in Nashville, it's so much noise pollution. I didn't even know what noise pollution was until I got like 6 years into the city, and I was like, yep. Dude, you go back home, you go to Louisiana, it's so quiet outside. It's wild. And I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Is there one product that you got to have, one Louisiana product that you got to have at all times?
I don't know. That's a good question. What do you mean by product? Let's see.
You got you a seasoning or anything like that you got to have?
We got to have some Tony Chachere's around. You know what I mean? We got to have, everybody they don't get it. Cause like you guys get this, but like, in our neighborhood, we got a pretty tight-knit neighborhood here, and like we'll do like little dinners every once in a while, and like we're blessed to have a really great neighborhood. But like everybody thinks stuff is spicy, and I'm like, I'm telling them, I'm like, you guys just don't know. Y'all don't know. I got this one girl, a really good friend of mine. She's from Georgia, and she thinks everything's spicy. She lives right next door to us, and I'm like, this is not spicy. I'm like, I'm telling you, and we're trying to get some of them. We're like, eventually we're gonna get y'all back to Louisiana. We're gonna like show y'all some real. Actually, we're thinking about doing for Easter. Thinking about doing a little crawfish boil up here.
Oh man!
And we're gonna show y'all like I need to see beads of sweat. That's when I know it's working.
That's how you know it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, man, how can people find you on socials, and how can people follow you and everything?
Yeah, man. Look me up, Brandon Ratcliff on Spotify, Apple, any of that stuff, and then Brandon Ratcliff on Instagram, Facebook. And then I am the real Brandon Ratcliff on TikTok, just because Brandon Ratcliff must have already been taken. So, yeah, y'all look me up. If you look up Brandon Ratcliff, you can probably find me on most of those places. But, yeah, give me a follow. Be sharing a lot more videos real soon. About to drop a project with my mom real soon. So, yeah, y'all check it out.
Well, let us know whenever you're dropping that so we can promote it on the news and everything like that. And brother, I appreciate you taking some time with us tonight, man. It's great to hear more of your story and everything. And I'm looking forward, like I said, I'm going to hook something up at somewhere in Nashville so we can do a social hang here soon. And I'm looking forward to catching up more.
Let's do it, brother. I love it, Ronnie. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Appreciate you, brother. All right, man. Talk to you soon.
All right. See you, man.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. If you tuned in and you listen to, if you listen to Brandon, I know you did, because that was amazing. Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in every week. You're one of our regulars, and we love you, and we thank you for that. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure to tune in every night at 7:00. Make sure to follow, like, share, comment, and help us show the world what Louisiana country music has to offer and our artists have to offer the world. Thank you guys for tuning in. God bless all of our Louisiana folks out there. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you next week right here on Louisiana Country Music Live.